Welcome to the Thrive Today podcast. Thrive Today is a platform for women who lead and believe. And my name is Natalie Bourne. I am the media host for Thrive Today. Well, today we are catching up with our founder of Thrive Today, Colleen Rouse, and we are excited because it is a brand new year. Welcome to the podcast, Colleen.
Hi. Yes, it is. We are starting off at the top of a brand new year full of wonderful possibilities and opportunities.
Well, this is the perfect time to really pick up our winter edition of the Thrive Today magazine and talk about your brand new article because it's so timely for the new year. Your article is called Optimize Your Focus. And if anything we're trying to do as we enter a new year, we're trying to figure out how do we optimize our year? How do we optimize our focus and really push forward into some outcomes that maybe we didn't get to last year? Maybe some things we didn't deliver on the way we thought we would. It's a beautiful time. And what I love about the new year, it's a beautiful time to turn the page and start again.
Yes. I mean, really, God operates in seasons. He creates the seasons. And so it's that window of opportunity that we have to really grab hold of and, carpe diem, seize the day. It really comes from God telling us to seize the moment. And that's the way he thinks. It's how do we make the most of what we have been given? That should inspire us. And I hope that today, as we talk about this, that it will inspire and challenge at the same time, because I think we need both in our lives.
Yeah. So I want to start out and just ask this question because, as I think about your article, you start out by talking about the fact that focus is crucial for individuals, especially when they're in a role of leadership. And I couldn't agree more. Without focus, right, I don't think people flourish. And so let's dig in and just talk about this idea of focus, especially for women who lead.
Absolutely. And this is one thing you can't cheat on. It's like, okay, think of this literally. You go to the eye doctor, the optometrist, and you've got the rows of letters in front of you. You can't cheat on that. Either you can see a level of detail or you cannot. And then they take the steps to rectify it. So you can't cheat on focus. You really have to have it and you have to shore it up, just like you're getting your prescription adjusted over the years so that, you can stay focused. It's true for us as leaders. And I think that it becomes even more crucial. It's an imperative skill that we have to have, given everything that we may run into this year.
Yeah, that's so good. As I hear you say the word focus, you kind of take this myth, I will call it a myth, on multitasking, and you really challenge it. And I love that you did this because I believe all the studies are coming out right now saying that multitasking is not the advantage that we think it is. And one of the things as we lean into focus is we have to kind of challenge some of the ways that we've done things in the past, especially if we're having challenges focusing. So let's talk a little bit about how you embark on challenging multitasking in some practical ways for us as most of us multitask. Let's just be honest. I'm a recovering addict of multitasking. So let's dig in and talk about this one.
Oh yeah, and that definitely would have been me. In fact, I would brag about it. And women have this innate ability to focus on a lot of things at once. This is why the Lord gave the birthing part to us. There's these jokes about when your husband's watching the kids and you say, "Where's Charlie?" And he says, "I don't know, he was here an hour ago," because so we do have this, and it's so that our children will live and not die, right? So
Right. That's right.
we have the ability to do lots of things, but it doesn't benefit us. And what's interesting about the studies on focusing and what helps and what hinders, of the things when they do the studies, stress, being overwhelmed, those are some components that hinder our ability to focus. So let me tie in how stress and multitasking work together, because what they've observed when they've done these studies, in fact, I'm looking at this now because they used heart rate monitors on their subjects. And so some were multitasking, some were staying focused on a project. And they noticed that the heart rate went up on the people who were switching tasks. And so that's an indicator when your heart rate goes up of stress. So we are kind of doing this self-induced thing. We are creating stress by going from one thing to another, even just picking up our phone and seeing what's going on our IG feed. All of that helps to increase stress and decrease our focus. And, they've also talked about how that every time you multitask, every time you switch your focus, you are diminishing your effectiveness because there is what they call a switch cost. And so we might not notice it initially, but it is going to play out and affect the bottom line. And so every time, our brain is amazing, but every time we switch our attention to something else, to reorient to a new activity, then we have to pay more attention at the start of each of those initiatives every single time. It's like it draws more of our brain's activity, and it doesn't necessarily benefit us. Okay. And it's a high form of inefficiency at the end of the day.
Wow. That's so good. I think there's so much here to think about. And so I want to say, what are some ways that we can make this practical? If everyone listening is now saying, you've perfectly described my world, my life, yes, this is me. What can we do to kind of turn this around? What are some ways we can maybe prioritize our day? What are some just practical things we can do in an always on 24/7 world? Like, how do we shut off the noise and focus?
So one of the things I talk about in the article is I think it's imperative that we protect our strength. And by that, I'm talking about our ability to think, our cognitive ability to imagine and create, and to make sure we're not undermining it with things like multitasking. And I would say the other thing is that to help strengthen that muscle, so to speak, I think we have to involve ourselves in more deep thinking.
Mhm.
And so this is where the practice of meditation comes into play. And so what I do in the morning is I guard that time. I have my time with the Lord, and then I will train my brain to meditate on something productive, a scripture, something I read that day, something that the Lord gets to pick the topic, right? And because what we do, if for example, when we're doing those mindless activities of brushing our teeth, I mean, you're not that involved in that, right? You're just
Right.
doing what you do. The tendency of our brain is to go negative.
Mm.
And the reason that is because the unresolved issues from the day before or moments before, the way our brain works, those things will come bubbling up to the surface because they're looking for resolution. And so that's the way we can operate independently. However, it's kind of like I look at my brain, especially me, okay, because I probably would have been diagnosed as ADD when I was in school, but they hadn't had that diagnosis yet. So I'm glad for that. So I know I still have those tendencies to get easily distracted, which is why this is such an important topic to me personally. And so the thing is, we have to, if our brain in the morning is like a toddler, you can let your toddler run around or you can train your toddler. And so David talked about marshaling his thoughts to the Lord. And so what I'm doing in those moments of meditating in the morning is I am marshaling my thoughts into an organized fashion, and I'm targeting my thoughts on something that is life-giving. Now, what's going to happen throughout the day is that I have formed that connection. He's the vine and I'm the branch, right? I'm establishing that vital connection. And through the day, life-giving thoughts flow back to me. And so this is a part of it. So I'm protecting the strength of my ability to think, and I'm also training myself to tune into his voice, because I know that throughout the day, urgent matters are going to come. But not everything that is urgent should be a priority.
That's good. Oh, that's so good.
And
Not everything that's urgent should be a priority. And for me personally, here's some things that I've had to start doing in the season because sometimes I'll be working on like 3 or 4 different projects at a time. So I will have to close all the windows except for the thing that I want to think about and work on in that moment. And then I've started just keeping a list to me because next to me, because what happens is things pop into your mind
yes,
and then you get distracted and you go work on like you next thing you know, you're like, how did I get all the way over here working on this thing? And it's because you had a wild hair, right? An idea of, oh, I should do that versus just having either your notes next to you from your phone or even better, a notepad, because honestly, then you pick up your phone and then your phone distracts you. And now
yes,
you're down a rabbit hole on the phone. And so figuring out sometimes like I love time boxing my day. So I'm going to spend an hour on this and 30 minutes on that. I'm going to take a break here. And I've had to get that specific. And I love some of the things you're saying because even in the morning, I've started asking the Lord, what are the 3 things that will be beneficial to me if I work on those 3 things today and just taking some time in that meditation with him to say, what are those things? And then writing them down. And then, midway through the day saying, did I do any of these? And then at the end of the day saying, are they done yet? And so, and sometimes they spill over to the next day, but I've loved this new thing that I've been doing, which is just asking in the morning, what are the 3 things? And that's really helped me to focus because I can get pulled, and as you can too, in 100 different directions, the text message, the email, the things, and everything takes you off of focus for where you need to go.
exactly. And that's the thing, is we are going to have lots of ideas and lots of thoughts. So being able to capture them. And sometimes I just like shut it down and say, you know what, Lord, I'm going to trust you're going to bring that back to my memory because
Mhm.
this is too important, what I'm doing right now. I mean, the way that there are things that we talk about getting in a flow,
Yeah,
you're not going to just happenstance into a flow.
right.
Very rarely will that happen. So you protect the flow. So
Mhm.
that's what focus does. It protects the flow so that you can, stay in this place where there's a stream of thought that's continuing to come. And when we normally look for distractions or multitask is when we hit that wall. We have that moment. It's like, okay, I can't solve this. So what do? When your mind is doing that, it's an indicator to you that you need to take a break, not take a
Mhm.
distraction, but take a break. And so you can, and I literally do this. Okay. I literally take a sailor moment where I just kind of zone out. I'll look out the window. I will give my mind a break, not put it on another task. And
So,
that's a
including
discipline.
social media, right? Because social
Oh,
media is technically
especially
another
social media.
task. It's not a
Especially,
break.
no, no, it's not. It's not. There's not your friend.
Yeah.
So, yes, taking that mental break and then coming back to what you were originally working on. So, and I love what you talked about as far as what are the 3 things, because most of the as experts tell us that's about what you're capable of doing 3 projects or 3 tasks that you should consider and do well in order to complete in a timely fashion.
Yeah. That's so good. And, I loved what you were saying about take a break because I think a lot of us don't build in breaks into our day. I was even watching some type of documentary or something on our brain, and it was talking about, when we are in all these back to back meetings and we don't even take like a 5-minute walk or a 5-minute break, we're not allowing our brain to relax and to release that information. We actually build stress upon stress upon stress. So if you start your day at 8 a.m. and you are wall to wall until 5 a.m. or sorry, not 5 a.m., 5 p.m.
I hope
That
not.
would be haven't done that one. 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and you don't build in break times, you're actually building stress upon stress in your brain. And then what happens is you're less and less effective in those meetings. And so even, yeah, if you can be 2 minutes late, but take a quick lap and just breathe out and just take a break from that before you enter your next meeting. I don't ever advocate for being late for meetings, but sometimes you need those 2 minutes make all the difference in how you actually show up to a meeting and whether or not you show up effective, efficient, or whether you show up exhausted. And when we're exhausted, we know this, we make mistakes. We say things we shouldn't say. We do things we shouldn't do when we don't step back before we step forward.
This is a big essential part that oftentimes we are leaving out. And it's not even the taking the break, it's what you do in that break. And I had to learn this because I scheduled myself back-to-back meetings because my thing was, how much can I do in one day? So what I would do is after that first meeting, I did a mini debrief. Was there something else? Was there a thought that came to me that was part of the solution? And I just kind of make a few notes. And then it's if I create closure from that first meeting. And then I give myself a second to go into the next meeting. And one of the things I would always ask my staff is, I don't like hallway meetings. We know the best decisions are not made in hallway meetings, but people like to do this, right? Because again, they have urgency. They need to be more organized. And so before we have a meeting, I would ask them, send me just some cliff notes, send me something in an email form prior to the meeting so that I can come prepared and speak intelligently about it. Don't surprise me and expect me to make a decision right then and there.
That is so powerful what you just said.
It's so important.
This is a huge tip. I think about this, and let's kind of put it into the real world for a second. Okay, so if you're going into a meeting and you're going to be asking someone for key decisions, you're going to be sitting down with someone and you need their just their brain power on something, sending something 24 to 48 hours before that meeting is not only a way to help you focus on what you need, but it helps them focus on helping you get the answer. And to me, what you just said there, that is the full-blown power of focus in a meeting is like giving, because some people can process fast and in the meeting and in real time, but other people, especially people that are more introverted, they need thinking time. They need time to read what you said and think about their response. And so you're actually doing those types of thinkers a disservice when you don't come to the meeting and giving them that pre-read, that advance warning, putting them in the meeting and telling them, just answer me, tell me what you think. That doesn't always bode well for us.
It doesn't. And here's the thing, no matter which side of this equation you're on. So let's say you are the one having to send the email to your boss, to your upline. It requires you to give it some thought. And sometimes what would happen, and this is a common thing, where somebody would come to meet with me and they didn't have all the information. So there was no way we could make a decision on it, right? So what I found that it was doing with my staff is, as they're writing things down and they've met with me before, they kind of know what questions I'm going to ask. And they would come to the realization that they didn't have all the information. So either they would say, I still need to research this, or they would research it. And then it helped them identify the holes in the process so that when they came to meet with me, they were more organized. The other thing that it does, if you're on the other side, if you're the decision maker and people are coming to you, you are that upline. It gave me the freedom sometimes to read the email and say, you know what? We're not ready to make a decision, so let's talk about it next week. So therefore, I didn't just waste 20 minutes of both of our time.
Yeah.
And so that small thing, that little piece of discipline went a long way in serving both people on both sides of that table.
Yeah, I love these points. I want you to end with this final thought, because in your article, you talk about the idea of protecting your creative rhythm. And just thinking about your creative rhythm it's almost puts a different lens on focus. And I think when we think about focus, we think about productivity and getting all this stuff done. But then you introduce this idea of creative rhythm. And I would love for you to talk a little bit about protecting your creative rhythm and what happens, or what is the negative effect if we don't do that, as kind of your final thought today.
Well, the power of our imagination is vast. And to me, it's a holy space. And so, I grew up, I had a very vivid imagination, and people would say to me, oh, Colleen, that's just your imagination. Mm-hmm. And so, I grew up with this thought of it minimizing the imagination as it is just this fluffy space, but it's not. Your imagination is the space where the Holy Spirit meets you. Your imagination, that part of your brain, that part of your mind is so crucial. That is where solutions come. That is where you solve problems. And so the imagination is not anything to just be taken for granted. It is something to protect. And so I pray and sanctify myself before the Lord. I'm sanctifying my imagination, and I'm expecting that that is the place where God is going to meet me, deep calling unto deep. And so, first of all, that's important to appreciate and to be able to know how to tap into that realm. The second thing is every single one of us is created differently. And so we have a rhythm to our life. And so I think we need to know when do we produce? When is the best time for us to do deep thinking? When is the best time for us, and that is not that hard to discover, but you just have to pay attention. For example, in the morning, and part of this maybe is because I have put this whole meditative process in the morning. Plus, it's perfect for me because you don't want to talk to me in the morning. It's like I need my coffee, right? My husband is my barista, and so he's like, it takes her a while to wake up. So that is the time where I actually like to clean and organize because it doesn't require much from me to know where this goes, and I'm doing something productive. And meanwhile, it just frees me up to just be in that space of meditation. But I find that my most creative time is somewhere around 2:00. There's a lot of people that is their time. There's usually two windows in the morning, like from 9 to 10 or something, and 3:00. So you can identify when those are, and that's what you safeguard so that you're using the time in conjunction with the flow of how God created you and wired you to work. And you are getting that's optimization of your gifts and your time.
Wow. This is so good. And this is the perfect topic for starting off the new year. I would love for you to talk a little bit about Thrive Today as women think about, as they're listening to this podcast and think about being further involved with our platform. Why should they get involved with Thrive Today in the new year?
I have had the pleasure of meeting so many women who are just crushing it. And yet, when you have conversations with them, it doesn't take long for these things to surface in them. And the number one thing I find in a lot of high profile women who are deeply talented is that they have a sense of being alone. Mm-hmm. They don't have a real strong community around them. They don't have necessarily the support coming from their church or those around them. And so this is why we stepped into this space, because we saw the need. I remember back in the day when I was first starting out in my career in sales and in corporate America, and that sense of, wow, who's there for me? Who's gone ahead of me? And so we need people who've gone ahead of us. We need people who are just like us, who get our world and who can add value to this. So this is why we're here. And the main thing that we focus on, speaking of the word focus, is the biblical worldview along with a feminine viewpoint. And those things together are very powerful. And so when women who are joining this tribe, who come in contact with us, who get our journal, I hear a constant, a common theme, and that is, you get me. And we all need women who get us and women who can add value to us. And so this is the atmosphere, this is the culture that we are endeavoring to create with Thrive, a supportive environment that is going to challenge and champion at the same time.
I love it. And ThriveToday.com is where you go to find out more about this. Here's the beautiful thing about Thrive Today. It's not only a platform for women who lead and believe, but one of the things that I've seen is I've studied mentorship over the years. And if you listen to one of our previous episodes, we talk about that a little bit. But people who have mentors, not only do they experience more success at work, but they make more over the lifetime of their roles. And so it's not just about the fact that, we're going to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps and do it. This is really about creating the ability for you to thrive in your personal, professional, and spiritual life. And so that's really what Thrive Today brings to the table. So we want you to head over to Thrive Today Women to learn more on Instagram. We want you to go follow Colleen Rouse at CW Rouse. And we want you to check out our subscription platform at thrivetoday.com so that you can learn more about what it looks like to be a part of a community, a movement of women who lead and believe. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Colleen. This has been incredible. And I cannot wait for the ladies to get their hands on this content as they enter the new year.
Absolutely. My pleasure. We love you all and look forward to the next time we get together.
Hey, ladies, we'll see you next time. Go over to thrivetoday.com to learn more and don't forget to thrive.